So the chapter starts with Big Daniel arriving at Busan, which he refers to as South Korea's second capital. This is probably due to the fact that it's the second most populated city, but it could also be PTJ basically hinting at the fact that Jinrang is powerful as shit. Anyway, some girls start fanboying over Daniel, and a quick tangent, bro, if Lookism ever falls off, God forbid, and PTJ is forced to drop all his manhwas and leave his company, this motherfucker should definitely pursue fashion design, cause these outfits, bro, you don't even know how much money I'd pay. Not that I have any. We then get some wholesome allied banter moments, which is never gonna get old. And while Hudson's glazing Ansan as usual, which, by the way, Hudson hating will no longer be tolerated because apparently this guy beat Eli Jang, Vinjin asks where the people who are gonna help them are, and to answer his question, Jae-gyeon rose up as usual, almost running over a peaceful civilian. However, this peaceful civilian happened to be Hudson, and we actually get a really sick moment here where Hudson breaks Jae-gyeon's car and makes the same exact remark Tae-soo did, saying he has a habit of breaking shitty cars. Jae-gyeon's mouthing as usual, meanwhile the rest of Allied surprised at the fact that Daniel was even able to get the help of the first generation king of Incheon, and out of nowhere Jay decides to give this guy a brand new car, which is like holy fuck. Jay ends up leaving with Jae-gyeon, and apparently he booked Allied a place to stay. Man, this guy's money really never ends, does it? And now this next part of the chapter felt like I was watching a YouTube vlog, but Allied arrives at the crib, and man, this shit is luxurious as hell. Hudson's still glazing Ansan, and we get a wholesome little moment between Daniel and Jay in the meantime. I'm gonna be real with you guys though, this part of the chapter didn't have much lore or anything that important to it. It was just some enjoyable slice of life Lookism which I can never get enough of. Nothing really worth discussing though. That is until they make it to the hotel lobby or sauna or whatever this fancy ass room is, and this is pretty much where the real chapter begins. Zach mentions that Vasco said he knew a guy in Busan, which Vasco doesn't deny, and apparently this friend has Busan under his palm, which would make you think this guy's friends with some crazy gang leader at first. Spoiler alert, he's not. One of the biggest complaints I've been seeing on the Lookism Reddit by pretty much everyone lately is the fact that Daniel has low-key been going back to how he used to be, getting really nervous and scared whenever something remotely sketchy occurs, which I understand is annoying, and we get to see another instance of that this chapter where Daniel was quite literally sweating over the fact that there are big Busan men with tattoos on their chests surrounding them. Bro, you are literally the main character of this goddamn webtoon. What the fuck are you always shaking about? It turns out that the reason these men were looking at Allied weirdly is due to their Seoul dialect, and as opposed to Daniel's little coward ass, Vin and Zack end up challenging the men, which gets them really mad, and it's then revealed that all of these men seem to be affiliated under the same group or gang, as their boss walks in and they all bow down immediately. It's the Busan friend Vasco was talking about. He's on our side and we should be safe, right? Sonong fucking ha. I have no idea what kind of decisions this man could have made to end up leading a gang in Busan, but the last time I remember seeing this guy was around 400 chapters ago, and he is still built like a rectangular prism. I'm not sure what drives PTJ to insist on drawing this guy in his old art style, with little to no detail on his face, but Sonong actually proves to be really unimportant here. The only significance he serves in this chapter is the fact that one of the members of his gang is going to be extremely helpful to us, and I'll go over that in a second. Now with the arrival of Sonong, and Vasco mentioning that Sonong apparently has Busan under his palm, Daniel asks a $1 million question. I heard there are 4 crews in Busan. This is one of the most important reveals PTJ has given us in a long time. Honestly, I just really love the way PTJ is portraying the both of Jinrang and Busan as a whole, because it gives off the same nostalgic vibe as when DG first interacted with Daniel and told him to unite the 4 major crews. At the time, we had really no idea what was going on in Seoul. It wasn't even Gangism at the time, it was straight up Lookism still. And when the 4 major crews were introduced, it gave off this really strong omen where it felt like the entire cast of the story was about to grow drastically. And right now, it seems like we're gonna be introduced to a whole new world of characters because we're in the second capital, Busan, which only makes sense to have its own 4 major crew system as well. I just love the way PTJ is approaching this whole Busan saga, introducing 4 new major crews, except one thing's different, and I'm gonna go over that in a second. After the mentioning of the 4 major crews, everyone in Sonong's gang, including Sonong, is immediately scared shitless, and it's mentioned that those guys, in other words the 4 major crews, are on a whole nother level, to the point that even fishermen get scared when they see the ring that symbolizes their gang. The keyword here is their gang, not any of the 4 gangs, their gang. Now I'm not gonna go over the ring and what the character on the ring means in this video, because this actually has a whole lot of lore behind it, and I'm gonna save it for my upcoming video on Jinrang and everything we know about the guy. The 4 major crews of Busan divide the city into 4 parts, in the same fashion the 4 major crews in Seoul did, and if someone gets caught making trouble in their turf, they just kill them. There are 4 turfs and 5 heads, with one of the crews having 2 crew heads, which we've never seen before with the old 4 major crews. And one thing I'd like to note is that the design on the silhouettes of these guys is actually uncannily similar to the design of our old 4 crew heads. We got the guy with the crimson background behind him resembling Ali Wang, a nonchalant dreadhead. The 2 guys next to him look slightly like Samuel and Eugene, with Eugene being the actual crew head of the workers and Samuel being the spiritual crew head, let's say. Then we got the guy with the blue background, which looks quite literally identical to Jake Kim, hitting the same the love pose and everything, and finally the guy with the pink background who looks nothing like Johan. They're supposedly all known to be incredibly skilled in fighting, but according to Sonong's gang member over here, the scariest thing is that they're all united under one gang, ruled by one man, Jinrang, which is the first generation king of Busan. Now this is actually an extremely interesting remark this guy's made, because it gives PTJ a lot of room to develop this guy's character. Now I did mention earlier that I was gonna make a separate video on everything we know about Jinrang so far, but I'm gonna go over a little facet of Jinrang's character PTJ exposes to us in this chapter, which strengthens his similarity to Charles Choi even more. Now as you guys may know, in the previous chapter 531, it was mentioned by James that Charles Choi isn't dead. He's dead physically, but his so-called remnants are still around. Now I think you guys know exactly where I'm going with this. A man from the P generation who ruled Seoul from the underground, being the founder of the 4 major crews and the 3rd man to ever fail a skydive attempt, and it just so happens to be that the second this guy actually dies, Jinrang is released from jail and is revealed to be ruling the 4 major crew system in Busan. I'm not saying Jinrang is Charles Choi's second body, but I'm saying like Jinrang might be Charles Choi's second body. Anyway, not gonna go too deep into this rabbit hole as again, I'm saving it for another video. We get to see a panel of Jinrang with his ass out and a tattoo of a wolf on his back, which I wonder what that could mean. And he's now fully confirmed to be the disciple of Gapyeong Kim, seemingly even adopting his fighting style as he can kill someone with one punch. And now this is where it gets deep. One of the Sonong gang members asks for permission to speak to the allied, and he subsequently mentions that one of his friends is a famous drug dealer who's currently working with the Jinrang gang. What a pure soul. She was just a nice young girl who only knew cigarettes and alcohol. Bangpal seems to have ended up in jail through selling drugs all throughout Busan, and when Min Jae questions her for making such a choice, it's revealed that her main motive from the start was to end up working with the Jinrang gang. There's one big problem though, Min Jae doesn't know where she is. And what's our solution for this problem? We've done this 1,000 times before. With the 4th affiliate, the 3rd affiliate, the 2nd affiliate, and even the 1st affiliate, the workers have taught us damn well just how to infiltrate a gang from the inside. The first thing we need to do is devise a plan, which Daniel has already done, and so Daniel says that they're no longer the allied. From yacht parties to ultra luxury food and all the way to fucking luxury shopping in malls, Jay starts burning the fuck out of his thick ass wallets and spoiling all of Allied. How does this contribute to our plan though? That's what Zach's question was at least, to which Daniel doesn't even have to answer, as we're almost immediately greeted with a group of drug dealers dressed in suits, and by that I mean a guy who looks like a younger manager Kim, and 2 motherfuckers with a dinosaur haircut next to him. Choi Bangpal's underlings have arrived. We're initially not sure how Daniel even got them to come to us, but then it's revealed that milking Jay's wallets and partying all day every day was a part of Daniel's plan all along. You see, Daniel had asked Sonong Ham and his brothers for a favor, to start a rumor that the allied are members of a drug dealing business from Seoul and that they're looking for contacts who can sell them loads of expensive and good drugs. Daniel left a Club VV sign at the deal place, and since Club VV is known to be the most ubiquitous and notorious drug dealing organization in all of Korea, of course Choi Bangpal would approach them. The reason they took so long, however, was to confirm that Daniel and the allied were actual members of Club VV's organization. Daniel and his gang end up spending all their time partying and posting videos on Musical.ly and become disguised as official members of Club VV. They finally make it to Choi Bangpal's drug warehouse, in which they engage in small talk with each other, asking about the state of VV herself, and this is all just irrelevant information. Unfortunately for Allied though, Bangpal herself isn't actually present at the scene, and this is when her underlings cut open what looks like some sort of a whale or big fish filled with a gargantuan amount of drugs, which were supposed to be shipped to Japan. However, they're only showing them to Allied because they're part of VV's organization. Jay continues to burn his wallet, offering to pay the Jinrang gang in all cash for their drugs. However, this is just a ploy to get Choi Bangpal to finally reveal herself, and whoops, they got trapped. I don't know what Daniel was expecting, making it so obvious that all they wanted was just to meet up with Choi Bangpal, as if she would ever reveal herself that easily. But instead, we just got a bunch of foreigners now, and they end up threatening to take their money and send them to the sea in a couple of barrels, to which the Allied responds in typical Allied fashion. They start putting boots to asses and nuts to butts, they start putting boots to asses, and after a brutal beating of Bangpal's underlings, Vinjin proposes to torture the gang members and get Bangpal to come out and reveal herself, to which the manager Kim looking man responds, "Boss Bangpal is not the kind of person who would come out even if you torture me," which is why Daniel comes up with an even smarter plan to attack the thing which means most to Bangpal, not the living human souls of her underlings, but the drugs she's about to send to Japan. And as soon as he pulls out his lighter and threatens to burn the entire thing to the ground, Bangpal reveals herself. I will not be making any comments regarding this woman's appearance because, not gonna lie, I can't even tell whether she's human or not. I guess that's just what happens when you spend your childhood smoking cigarettes and fucking drinking alcohol. The chapter ends with a really sick shot of all the members of Allied staring directly at Choi Bangpal's camera, where she asks him what they want in exchange for not harming her drugs, and the request they make just makes this arc a whole lot more interesting and hypes us up even more. Daniel asks her to bring the 4 crew heads of Busan. I find it kinda funny how Daniel came up with this mastermind plan to infiltrate the Jinrang gang from the inside, yet he still managed to forget the fact that there were 5 crew heads instead of 4. Anyway, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think this plan is gonna work as easily as Daniel thinks it's going to. The 4 crew heads of Busan are definitely not gonna reveal themselves survives this easily, and there's probably gonna be another twist or some sort of ace underneath Bangpad's filthy sleeve. But regardless, that was chapter 532, and now yeah, that's about it.
Awooga, awooga titties.